Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the inaugural episode of Superintendents Unplugged, In Depth with Davis, the podcast where we'll dive deep into the world of educational leadership. I'm your host, Addison Davis, and I'm thrilled to have you join me as we embark on the inspiring journey together. As a superintendent once myself, I understand the challenges and complexities that come with leading a school district. But what I've come to realize is that there's abundance of amazing work being done by superintendents all across our country. This podcast is a platform to shine a spotlight on their incredible accomplishments and innovative approaches. Each episode will bring you exclusive interviews and superintendents from various districts across our country, both big and small, urban and rural, as they share their personal stories, triumphs, and even their moments of vulnerability. We will explore the strategies they employ to tackle the ever-evolving landscape of education, from fostering equity and inclusivity to embracing technology and preparing students for their future. But this podcast isn't just about showcasing success. It's about fostering a community of educational leaders who can learn from one another, share their experiences, and collectively navigate the complexities of our role. We'll discuss the tough topics as well, the difficult decisions, and the innovative solutions that are transforming education for the better. So while you're an educator, a parent, a student, or simply someone who's passionate about education, this podcast is for you. Superintendents Unplugged is your behind-the-scenes pass to the world of educational leadership, where we uncover the stories that inspire, motivate, and empower every one of us. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and entertained as we embark on this incredible journey together. I can't wait to introduce you to the remarkable superintendents who are changing the educational landscape one district at a time. Welcome to another episode of Superintendents Unplugged, In Depth with Davis. I'm your host, Addison Davis, along with partner Strategos Todd Lamb, who leads a podcast called On the Clock. Today we have our special guest, David Law, the superintendent of Minnetonka in Minnesota. Thank you so very much for being here. You know, many years of being a superintendent. What is it like? I think 11 years as a superintendent in Minnesota. Right. What is that like? And today it's very hard to see the superintendents last 3 or 5 years. 11 years is a long time to sit in this seat. How do you do it?
Thank you. I think that when I go back to when I first started till now, the job is really different. As I talk about supporting my colleagues and seeing lots of turnover in the greater Twin Cities area, keeping the fun in the job keeps it going because, one, the problems will come to you, but we talk about, whether it's the why, but I tell people all the time, you can find kids, and kids are where it's fun in the job.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the longevity. I still look forward to going to work. I work with great people and amazing kids.
That matters.
And the other part of it is, I grew up, my parents taught me, hey, wherever you go, it's amazing and you can make it that way. Right. And so I'm inclined to see the best in what happens in my district every day.
Yeah, cool. You know what? Across this nation, we have big organizations that dive in to be able to support superintendents. Those to help build capacity, those to look at policy, those to look at trends and challenges. These organizations help innovation. You are lucky enough to become the incoming El Presidente, president of AASA. Talk about that, and when does that journey start?
So I am president-elect. The 24-25 year is my ramp-up year. I'm following Gustavo Bolderas from Butte.
Awesome leader.
Great guy. And Gladys Cruz from New York.
Yeah, great leader.
But this is my year to support Gustavo in his presidency. And then in July of 25, I assume that role for the year where I become the voice of public education, supporting AASA in their work. And the why behind it, it's an organization, one, that leans forward for education.
Absolutely.
And two, works to support all 13,000 public school systems across the country. Whether your district has 50 kids or 500,000 kids, we're committed to supporting you. And for me personally, I've grown professionally through AASA. And it's a chance to give back and to make sure that I'm helping people move forward in this system. It's a great opportunity. And I can meet great people from across the country.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, wish you nothing but the best. The support will be there, and what a great organization to team up with.
You've had to follow now. I mentioned this to you before. You follow Dennis Peterson at Minnetonka, a legend, and in this role, he'll be following another legend in Gustavo Valdez.
I know. Here's the great.
You sign up for that?
First of all, don't mess things up. There's a life lesson there. But when you follow people who are passionate, you get to learn from them.
That's right.
And my predecessor in Minnetonka, actually the last two, going back to 1971, two leaders from 71 to 2022. Wow. Incredible. One of them was a former National Superintendent of the Year, and the other one, Dr. Dennis Peterson, just renowned for his commitment to excellence. You get a chance to see where they put their time.
Sure.
And with the great work they did for kids. And same with Gustavo. I've had a chance to be in the room with Gustavo as he's talking, and he is sort of a quote I'd give about Gustavo is calm waters run deep. Yeah. He might not lead the room in conversation out of the gate, but boy, he's thinking about it. And when he finally puts his voice in the room, every time I'm wow. Yeah. I mean, he's a thinker, and I mean, his commitment, his personal story, and his commitment to kids in his system are amazing.
Sure. Inspiring.
Yeah.
We're in Glendale, California. His parents worked farms in the state.
Wow.
Yeah.
14 years superintendent for Gustavo, and we'll know you do great things. You know, as you start to look at embracing and being the voice for AASA and leading this exceptional work, you also are the voice for actively engaging your community. One of the things that we see within your school district, how we actively engage our caregivers, our parents. You've been a model for this. Talk a little bit about what that community engagement means in an effort to accelerate and prepare students every single day.
I think one of the funny things that happened over the last 5 years is for a long time, you'd ask community to attend events and it was crickets. You'd get 3 people. And then through the pandemic and in the last 5 years, hundreds of people filled boardrooms. And you'd see school boards and superintendents say, whoa, I wasn't asking for that, right? However, there are people that are really invested in their kids, and what they're really saying is, I want to know what's going on.
Sure.
Don't do things behind closed doors. I live in this community, I want a voice. And so in terms of parenting community engagement, it's that balance of feed the community information.
Sure.
So that, when they get to the spot where they say, hey, I don't want to hear about this anymore, you've arrived.
That's right.
But it shouldn't be a surprise. And as superintendents, as you know, by the time we're telling the community, we've been thinking it for 50 times. Yeah. And so we have to get that balance of this is their first time through. They're going to have questions we thought about 8 weeks ago. Yeah. And so there's that commitment. Keep the community informed. And I'm not perfect. I'm just committed.
Yes, sir.
Better messaging all the time. In terms of community partnerships, 2 things. We're committed to our kids. And our number one job is that they walk across the stage, walk out into the world excited to do something and ready to start learning. Right? That's our commitment. And part of that readiness is if they can connect with people in an area that they're interested in and say, oh, how would I see myself there? And better yet, I'm not going to partner with the CEO because that person spent some time in the industry. Let me partner with someone who's new in this field. And I can say, hey, what was it like your first year or 2? What was your background? What was your training? So our district worked pretty intentionally to partner kids with areas of interest with mentors in those fields. We had just held a kickoff event, 550 community members doing one-on-one mentoring with our high school students. By the time our kids get through high school, our goal is that everyone will have that one-on-one mentorship experience. We're not there, but that's that aspirational goal. The other benefit to that is as those partnerships connect with our kids, one, they start to believe in our future because they meet with amazing kids. And our kids are amazing. And then they also start to, they chime in and they say, hey, in this business analytics class, here's a tool we're using in our industry. I talk about that for an hour. So last year I talked about someone who's working with Best Buy, incredible 2-hour presentation about how they work to get products that no longer work back in and recycle them, and just talking with their kids about the recycle industry and the buyback purchasing things. And I could see all of our kids spinning their heads thinking about, hey, my family just traded in a refrigerator that wasn't working and I wondered why they took it. Well, that's a commitment to Best Buy's recycling and all of these lessons. And so, as a bonus as a superintendent, I get to hear those lessons and sit in class and I'm like, oh, I'm learning something today too. But, it's a life cycle of our kids learning relevance and those people giving back and our program getting better.
Awesome.
Isn't the challenge with parental engagement, I think you alluded to this a little bit, but I recently made the analogy that opening up the hood into education is a bit like opening up a hood from a 57 Chevy and then a 2024 car.
Mm-hmm.
Two very different experiences. And don't we kind of want to have our kids learn the way we learn? Isn't that a very common human thing?
I was a high school math teacher, and math is one of those things where a surprising number of adults would come to conferences and say, I was terrible at math, right? Like no one would ever say I'm terrible at reading, but math, it's a comfort level. I was bad at it. And then they'd turn around and say, and I don't like how you're teaching.
Yeah.
And I would say, I should teach you like you never learned it.
Yeah, right.
But so we are constantly the science of, which is a trendy term now, but we're learning from our failed efforts to teach kids to teach differently, and our community expects us to get better while not changing.
That's right.
And understandably, because they want to be able to help their children, and the only way they can do that is if it was the way that they learned.
Yeah.
And so, the pandemic exposed parents to how the evolutionary change of education, and it terrified them.
Sure.
I think because they realized how far we've come digitally and in philosophy, in pedagogy, and so I understand those concerns, and we have a balance to communicate with our parents, but now we're really getting to that spot of a high-level practitioner in a field trying to explain to parents who don't have that depth of knowledge.
Sure. I did. My son's a huge favorite. I lived as a high school basketball player, going home with my father every night. He was an all-state basketball player, and hearing him let me have it about my coach, about my own ability, about why I was playing incorrectly. And so I let my kid be a sailor, something I know nothing about, and I let my other kid play soccer, something I know even less about. And that's learning lessons, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and letting go and trusting.
Yeah.
We own in education the need to build parents' trust and community trust, and that's through transparency. But we, in some areas, we moved so fast and left parents behind that we lost trust, and we're trying to build it back. And our country is wrestling with that. We just, when you look at a split country at the top of the ticket, when you talk about, do you trust your person? Well, I trust my person, but I really don't trust the other person. Now we have school boards that represent both parties and say, do you trust the board? They say, well, I trust those three, but not those four. And so we're working. We have to rebuild trust.
Yeah, and I think that just time on task for that, right? And I think the more you talk about transparency, active engagement, that allows us to lead to being uber successful. In those spaces, though, I think that the more that we can, you said it well, that parents and caregivers, they want us to accelerate their learning process for our students, but they want us to change nothing. Mm-hmm. The more that we select high quality curriculum and at the same token provide not only capacity building for students internally through interventions and tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 instruction, we've got to leverage our parent academies to be able to help them understand how to help and how to assist their learners, because parents are our first educators. Mm-hmm. But sometimes they feel disenfranchised because when you look at under the hood of the car, the 65 Mustang versus what you look at the new Mustang, totally differential parts and mechanisms, mechanics, and all those elements. So the more we can help them feel a part of the process, the better it will come. But to your point, David, it's going to take time in that.
Okay.
It's going to take time.
Well, how could it go any other way, though? Another reference. My favorite show growing up was Little House on the Prairie. They were always going up to Mankato. That's got to be close to you, right?
You're just southwest of us.
From 1875 to 1975, 100 years, we basically taught education the same way. We used chalkboards, we used slates, and in the last 45 years, we've had technology hit us over the head in a really powerful way, and it feels like it's only getting more speedy down the track. AI, I had no idea what that was going to be 4 years ago, and now you can't find an education company that doesn't say they do some of it.
Right. Well, and we're trying. I would argue, and for all the teachers who might be listening to this, I would tell them we have used technology to make the job of a teacher harder every year. We've added something to their plate. Here's you can work a little longer, work more on your prep. We finally get some tools that might streamline the work, and we're afraid to use it.
Yeah.
But it's about time that technology flips the switch for teachers to say, hey, I'm finding time. I can be more personal with my kids and let some technology help on the side. But the perception that education hasn't changed. We have these collaborative spaces where we have kids. The teacher will talk for 10 minutes and the kids will break out and move into other spaces and start working on projects in some of our experiential learning. And parents will walk in and say, well, why aren't these kids working with the teacher?
Yeah.
So, hey, they're working on a 3-month project. They have to deliver an outcome that they'll present to a board, a corporate board, and it'll be part of their portfolio. They'll take it and leave and it'll be good. And parents, the disconnect, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But it is not. Some parts we have to organize hundreds of kids into spaces, and so they go into rooms of 30 to facilitate learning. But the activities that we do are revolutionary in how they're changing.
Last question: as you transition to lead this great work and monstrous work to be able to help, across the nation with AASA as the incoming president-elect, you talk about capacity building, and even within your school district for leadership capacity building. What does that look like, and why is that so important? Because we've had multiple conversations about it went from being an operational expert to an instructional leader, back to an operational expert during COVID, now getting it back to the instructional leadership. What's the importance of building capacity of leaders, and what's going on in your school district?
Well, we want people who are hungry to make change.
Love it. Right? Say that again.
We want people who are hungry to make change.
Thank you.
The leaders of our school systems have to look at the real results and be a little bit irritated and feel a sense of urgency.
Love it.
We have to be strategic about where we put our time and energy, but I am constantly looking to the people that I work with and that don't work for me, that I work with. And we talk about on an annual basis, where are you growing? And I've led teams that have had lots of people get their superintendent's license, and I've been very fortunate. Some very good friends have gone on to lead their own districts. Nothing is more fun than to help someone into the role optimistically.
Sure.
And to grow leaders. And I have people who get their license and say, I'm very comfortable where I'm at. And I say, great. Now you're a systems thinker, though.
Yeah.
Now you're thinking beyond simple short-term solutions to what does this look like across the system? What does this look like over time?
Sure.
What are all the places that this decision will touch? So who wouldn't want to have, if you want to be the sole all-star in your team and be surrounded by a cast of people that look up to you and you never want to play at your level, don't expect to win championships.
I agree. Our job is not to hire bobbleheads at all. Right. No. We want individuals that are going to push back, be critical thinkers, be a diverse cohort of thinkers, and really get to a part where we found causations and solve. When we sense an issue, solve an issue, move forward, and continue to be champions of it. For me, it's I'm blessed enough to have 5 individuals that work on my cabinet. They're superintendents across the nation. And every one of them I've learned from and become a better leader, better person, better husband, better father from every one of them. And so for you, I applaud you for doubling down on professional development, because we're looking for individuals to be operational experts, instructional leaders, talent and culture builders, climate and culture managers as well. All of those honestly have political savviness, because you got to have that nowadays. We learn that every single day.
Right.
So those are elements that we believe they're in the forefront of helping individuals become great leaders and C-level leaders, and also systemic superintendents.
Right. And we got a whole nation of kids that needs a group of people leading.
Absolutely.
And so our legacy is, 1, we got to draw people back into this business because it's an amazing business.
That's right.
And 2, we're going to inspire leaders that it's possible.
That's right. It's hard. Well, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Great.
Really appreciate it. Today, you heard it from the incoming president of AASA, David Law, from Minnetonka Public Schools in Minnesota. Look forward to seeing you next time on Superintendents Unplugged, In Depth with Davis. Also here with Todd Lamb for On the Clock. Signing out until next time.